Good evening and welcome to your Tuesday, May 30 edition of the Evening News. I am Jemima Holmes. Thank you for joining us. Some of the stories we are following this evening are: MICOBIE teen is 20th victim to succumb to Madia fire. 3 more Madia fire victims laid to rest in KARISPARU. Mechanics stabbed to death over old grievance. U.S. launches project to steer youths away from violence, crime. Chief Justice throws out Carl Smith Joseph's challenge to LGE voters list. And police issue wanted bulletin for pilot slapped with 16 TIP charges. Now for the news in detail. Sharana Daniels, a 13-year-old from MICOBIE village, is the 20th person to succumb to the Madia dormitory fire, the Health Ministry announced on Tuesday. Here are the details from Rupa Sinarain.
The death toll from the Madia Fire Region 8 now includes 19 female students from the dormitory and a 5-year-old boy. Information from the Health Ministry indicated that Daniels died shortly before 10 hours on Tuesday while in the intensive care unit of the Georgetown Public Hospital. Daniels is said to be the first victim of the Madia fire tragedy that was air-dashed to Georgetown in the wee hours of May 22nd. She was listed as critical before being flown down to Georgetown and remained on the critical list until her passing. Human Services Minister Dr. Vindhya Prasad, who has been working closely with the families following the tragic fire, spoke out on the most recent death moments before it was announced.
As our government, our people of Guyana struggle with the loss of now today 20 beautiful souls. It has been a travesty of epic proportions. It has devastated our people. And I really am grateful for the outpouring of love and support from everyone in and beyond the boundaries of Guyana.
Meanwhile, another 13-year-old child who was flown to the North Wellborn Center in Staten Island, New York last Sunday has shown some signs of improvement. The young girl had the first of multiple surgeries on Monday afternoon. The ministry said she is doing well and a positive outcome is expected. Rupa Sinarain, The Evening News.
President Dr. Irfan Ali, who is presently attending a meeting with other South American heads in Brazil, has expressed his heartfelt condolences to the parents, relatives, and students of Madia Secondary School on the passing of 13-year-old Sharana Daniels, who had been hospitalized following the dormitory fire. We pray that her loved ones are granted strength and courage during this difficult period. My government and all of Guyana continue to keep you in our prayers. Rest in peace and rise in glory, Sharana, the president in a brief statement added. Meanwhile, the bodies of 3 cousins who had lost their lives in the tragic Madia Secondary School dormitory fire were laid to rest on Tuesday. Here are the details from Pooja Rambaran.
Bibi Jeffrey, Belnisa Evans, and Laureen Evans were buried on Tuesday at their hometown of KARISPARU Region 8. The 3 were among 20 killed after a fire that engulfed the female dormitory of the Madia Secondary School on May 21st, taking the lives of 16 other female students and a 5-year-old boy. However, it was a solemn Tuesday in Madia as students and residents gathered at the town's airstrip to bid their final goodbyes to Jeffrey and the Evans before they were flown to KARISPARU to be buried in the presence of their families. Their remains were transported by helicopter to their village where a special service was held. The funeral was attended by Prime Minister Mark Phillips, who is acting in the capacity of the President, along with Public Works Minister Bishop Juan Edgel. Last week, 16-year-old Sabrina John was the first victim to be laid to rest at KARISPARU as well. The government continues to offer assistance with funeral arrangements. 8 of the girls are expected to be laid to rest in MICOBIE on Thursday. In the midst of the funeral in KARISPARU, the news broke of the death of another teenager who was severely burnt during the fire. The 15-year-old teenager, who was slapped with 19 murder charges, is also expected to be arraigned for the death of 13-year-old Sharana Daniels, thus bringing the murder charges to 20. Pooja Rambaran for the Evening News.
Let's now tell you the 23-year-old Shivram Mohabir, also called Vikash, of Forte Triumph Sideline Dam, East Coast Demerara, was on Monday evening stabbed to death by his girlfriend's uncle over an old grievance. Luana McAllister has the details.
Based on reports received, the suspect made a report at the BV police station against the now dead man of alleged threatening behavior, which is presently under investigation. However, on the date in question, Mohabir was at his girlfriend's residence at 5th Street in Martisville when the suspect turned up at the house and rushed into the back room where the young man was, which led to a scuffle between them. During the commotion, the suspect armed himself with a knife and dealt Mohabir one blow under his left arm in the vicinity of his chest. The young man was rescued by his girlfriend, but the suspect made good his escape. The injured mechanic was escorted to the Georgetown Public Hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries. Police have confirmed that Mohabir sustained a 1.5 cm laceration to his left wrist and a stab wound to the left side chest area, which caused bleeding around the heart, and his condition was deemed critical. The 49-year-old suspect was arrested at his home and escorted to the BV police station, where he was placed into custody. The police later located the murder weapon at the home. In an interview with the Evening News on Tuesday, the dead man's girlfriend, Ravina Prasad, told us how the incident unfolded.
On the 20th of May, after work, he was bringing me home. So we have to pass right by their house to come home, right? Because he drove Agriculture Road. So when we passed now, we heard a female voice cussing, right? We didn't stop back to see who it is. We just keep on driving, and he dropped me home here. He dropped me and he left, and when he was going home back to work because he works at home, right? So when I arrived home, my grandmother asked me why we picking trouble with people, right? I asked her who people we picking trouble with. She said how my uncle's wife called the landline phone and said that Vika showed her middle finger and that she's coming here to beat him. So now when I called him to warn him about what she said, right? He told me that they already run out in front of his car. The wife slapped him up in the car. The son took he has a wash bay, I don't know what he took, and lashed the mirror on the car. Yesterday now, my nephew and my brother, I don't know where they were coming from, I wasn't in the car. I heard that the son of my uncle was riding in front of the car, and he and Vikash had some exchange of words, right?
Prasad said both she and her grandmother managed to take away the knife from the suspect, after which the injured mechanic was rushed to the hospital, where he subsequently succumbed. Luanda McAllister for the Evening News.
The police have now issued a wanted bulletin for 45-year-old pilot and businessman Orlando Charles of Middle Street, Georgetown, against whom 16 trafficking in person charges have been instituted. Police have said that between November 1, 2022 and May 18, 2023, Charles trafficked 16 Venezuelan nationals between communities in the Mazaruni River in Region 7 and Georgetown. The victims reported the matter to the Guyana Police Force, and members of the Trafficking in Persons Unit of the Criminal Investigation Department headquarters immediately conducted an investigation. Following the investigation, legal advice was given by the Director of Public Prosecutions for Charles to be charged with 16 counts of trafficking in persons. He is expected to make his court appearance shortly. The Guyana Police Force's TIP unit, in efforts to combat trafficking in persons, will continue to work with other stakeholders to conduct intelligence-led operations, spot inspections, awareness, and training in every region of Guyana. Anyone with information about the whereabouts of Charles is asked to contact the police on telephone numbers 216-0251, 444-3429, 225-2896, 911, or the nearest police station. Coming up, Chief Justice throws out Carl Smith Joseph's challenge to LGE voters list, and U.S.-based Guyanese social media influencer gunned down in Atlanta. Do stay with us. More news ahead.
Sally's Boutique is the place to shop when looking for quality high-end men and women footwear, wristwear, wallets, and clothing. Follow us on Instagram, Sally's Boutique GY. We're located at Charlotte Street between Camp and Wellington Streets. Contact us on 231-7519. That's 231-7519. WhatsApp 613-9578. That's 613-9578. Sally's Boutique, the new home of Clark.
Well, Mr. Smart, election in the air again, buddy. But how often if we can hear stories about dead people and overseas people voting again?
Well, Sunil, I can't say if you will hear that, but I know you can't cheat in voting at elections.
Why you say that?
Because if you try to cheat, you will be caught. And when you're caught, you will be prosecuted. And if found guilty, you will go to jail or pay a fine or both.
So how they gonna catch me if I try to cheat?
How? GCOM has several measures in place to identify if anyone attempts to cheat. For example, like pretending to be a voter that he or she is not. And those measures include checking the ID cards and the folio with voters' photos and any other information on it to verify that they are who they claim to be. So anyone who attempts to vote illegally will be immediately arrested by the police.
You're right, Mr. Smart. Anyway, thanks for educating me why nobody can vote by cheating.
Anytime, Sunil. Anytime, man. Anytime.
For more information, contact the GCOM hotlines on 225-027729, 226-6557, or 223-9650, or visit www.gcom.org.gy. LGE is Monday, June 12.
Moving, lifting, or bending, whatever the job, we at Sylvie's Variety Store have the right tools to make it happen. Pallet jacks and hand trucks for bonds and industrial sites, easy pickup and convenient maneuvers. Chain hoist from Roughneck and Northern Industrial, the perfect solution to lifting heavy objects. And then there's the 12-ton and 16-ton hydraulic pipe benders from 1/2 to 2 inch. We also stock the shop press machine from Northern Industrial. Sylvie's Variety Store stocks the tools to make it happen.
Welcome back. You're watching the Evening News. Acting Chief Justice Roxanne George on Tuesday dismissed the case filed by a Partnership for National Unity, Chief Scrutineer Carl Smith-Joseph, challenging the voters list compiled by the Guyana Elections Commission, GCOM. Here are the details.
Carl Smith-Joseph, APNew's chief scrutineer, had taken GCOM to court to challenge the compilation of the voters list for the local government elections, LGE. She had contended that the process used violated the Local Authorities Elections Act and deprived electors of the opportunity to object to names on the register of voters. With LGE set for June 12, Smith-Joseph had sought a number of orders, including to have the extracted list of electors be set aside. Instead, the acting Chief Justice described the notice of application as misconstrued and relying on faulty evidence. In one instance, Justice George noted that the case of Ram versus Attorney General was incorrectly cited by the applicant. She also noted that even if the correct case of Ram versus Chief Election Officer of 2019 was used, this case would still be misapplied. In addition, the Chief Justice noted that not a scintilla of evidence was provided by the applicant to argue that the register of voters is not credible. Additionally, she made it clear that the court could not deal with the issue of biometrics, but rather, this was a matter for Parliament. Describing the application as much ado about nothing, the Chief Justice also observed that Joseph's case seemed intended to call into question the voters list used in the 2020 general and regional elections. The Chief Justice did, however, advise the National Assembly to take meaningful steps to harmonize the electoral laws. Jarrell Bryan, The Evening News.
A U.S.-based Guyanese social media influencer was in the wee hours of Tuesday gunned down while riding in an Uber SUV in northeast Atlanta, Georgia. The dead woman has been identified as 30-year-old Tisha Brody, also known as Tavi Badi. According to Atlanta News First, police responded to a person-shot call around 4:30 hours at Lindbergh Drive and Adena Drive in Buckhead. The Atlanta Police Department says this was a targeted shooting and more than one gun was fired, but they are not sure if there was an exchange of gunfire. More than one vehicle was involved and one is described as possibly a light-colored sedan. Police have on Tuesday said that they are working to determine whether the shooting is connected to another shooting. The Uber driver was arrested and is cooperating with investigators. At the time of the shooting, the Uber driver related the victim was his only passenger and he was not hurt. The United States government on Tuesday launched its Youth Resilience, Inclusion and Empowerment YRIE program in Guyana, positioning its intent and commitment to guide youths into productive adults, away from a life of crime and violence. Here are the details of this report.
Over a 5-year period, the project will be implemented in 4 Caribbean countries, including Guyana. YRI is a youth-centered system-strengthening activity based on a public health approach to violence prevention and incorporates positive youth development approaches, which targets youths at risk between ages 10 to 29. It will also enhance coordination between social services and justice institutions, particularly around referral pathways, and promote partnerships to support community crime and violence prevention efforts. Chief of Party of the YRI program, Phelps Philly, noted that Guyana has been on the forefront of juvenile justice reform and taken on a more rehabilitative approach to dealing with young people in the justice system, a reason for this partnership.
YRI will continue to support Guyana on this critical and important journey, as well as work with the relevant ministries and civil society organizations to provide programming for young people who are or have been part of the juvenile justice system. YRI will continue to collaborate with government agencies, private sector entities, and non-government organizations to reach its core objectives, including improving learning outcomes for youth.
The Deputy Chief of Mission of the U.S. Embassy also added that this brings hope for a better future for young people throughout the region.
We have spoken with stakeholders across the country to identify a number of issues impacting young people. We have heard the challenges some youth face as they mature into adults. We have discussed how young people are influenced by their peers and how this impacts, for example, young men's involvement in disruptive groups. We have heard about the violence in schools and communities, and in particular, the troubling state of violence against women and girls.
Meanwhile, Human Services Minister Dr. Vindhya Prasad emphasized that an important plague to mitigate is recidivism.
The important thing is not to have recidivism, repeat offenses. The important thing is to let them know that support is there, opportunities are there, so that they can not only extrapolate themselves from these situations, but they can have the opportunity to develop their inherent potential.
The program is funded under the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative. Rupa Sinarayan, The Evening News.
Persons occupying lands at Kokwani Housing Scheme Phases 1 to 3, Park Potville and Chiney Lane in Region 10, on Tuesday signed up for their agreement of sale certificates of title at the Kokwani Recreational Center. The initiative is being hosted by the Housing and Water Minister, Colin Crowell, and the Chief Executive Officer of the Central Housing and Planning Authority, Sherwin Greaves. The area has been occupied by residents for several years, but no ownership documents were issued. As such, occupational surveys were conducted in the areas as the ministry works aggressively to resolve the issue. Those incorporated into the existing plan were able to process their ownership documents on Tuesday, while another exercise will be conducted to accommodate persons who fall outside of the plan. Fresh off his visit to Qatar, where he met with a number of top Qatari officials, President Dr. Irfan Ali announced that Guyana has secured a US $350 million loan that will see the 4-lane highway being built from Schoonard, West Bank, Demerara, to Crane on the west coast of Demerara, being extended to Parika. Here are the details.
President Dr. Irfan Ali made this announcement while meeting with residents of the Malgritaut, Meerzorgen area. When it comes to the schooner to crane portion of the project, he was hopeful that the bypass road could be completed by the 2023 third quarter.
I just came back from Qatar and we have secured $350 million to continue that road through to Porica and complete the new four-lane road all the way on the west coast. We've already started, and hopefully by the third quarter of this year, we'll be opening the new bypass highway from Schooner to Crane.
During President Ali's visit to Qatar earlier this month, he had met with a number of individuals, including the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. The $11.8 billion Schooner to Crane project will see the construction of 4.1 kilometers of a dual carriageway, reinforced concrete road with an emergency lane. Additionally, 2.4 kilometers of road rehabilitation and upgrades will also be undertaken. The project will also feature 2 roundabouts, 11 reinforced concrete box culverts, 36 pre-stressed bridges, and road signage and markings. Contracts for this groundbreaking initiative were signed in September of last year with 8 contractors. Jarrell Bryan, The Evening News.
The Agriculture Ministry has given the approval for some farmers to utilize the road shoulders to cultivate crops. Andrew Carmichael reports that the approval from the Agriculture Minister comes despite an advisory from the National Agricultural Research and Extension Institute, NARI, urging farmers to desist from planting anything along the road shoulders.
Under the Drainage and Irrigation Act, tampering with drainage and irrigation structures is prohibited. As such, practices which result in damage to access dams, such as erecting structures or planting on government reserves, are prohibited. The National Agriculture Research and Extension Institute, NARI, stated that these practices will not be condoned and is advising farmers to desist from utilizing the road shoulders to plant. In an advisory, NARI says they are to be kept clear to allow machinery to be able to access canals for the purpose of clearing. However, in the Blackbush polder area, the practice of cultivating crops along the road shoulders is widespread. Nevertheless, Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa related that other communities in Region 3 are not exempt from NARI's advisory, but in some communities, farmers are being allowed to cultivate the road shoulders.
For years, you would have known, like myself, growing up, we know people used to normally plant those areas. What we are advising people not to encroach and reserve that will be used for vehicles to or machinery to traverse. So in the Blackbush polder, however, that area over the years, and not only Blackbush, places like Canals Polder, places like Cane Grove in Region 4, those area people tends to, although they are rice, they are farmers doing rice cultivation, they do cash crop on the road shoulder there. So we have not been enforcing, so to speak, any law to remove them from the road shoulder, but as a matter of fact, they have been making a living there over the years, and I think that if they are not affecting anyone, they will remain.
Under the DNI Act, persons who do not comply could be fined and also imprisoned. NARI is also advising farmers that it is also an offense punishable by law for farmers to damage infrastructure during the course of irrigating their farmlands. For the Evening News, Andrew Carmichael.
And now for a look at the bird reports.
The Demerara Harbour Bridge will be closed to vehicular traffic on Wednesday, May 31st, 2023 at 2 hours for a period of 1.5 hours. Meanwhile, the Berbice River Bridge is expected to be closed at 13 hours 30 on Wednesday, May 31st, 2023, also for a period of 1.5 hours.
Expectations high for Golden Jags training camps and Windies batters in control in final A-team tests. Details of these stories and more in the Sportcast, sponsored by MACORP, coming up on the other side of the break.
Come visit us on Waterloo Street, John Lewis style.
How to mark the ballot. Voting at local government elections is easy. On the ballot paper, provision is made for you to vote twice. Once on the top half, where you vote for the proportional representation aspect of the elections, and once at the bottom half for the first past the post aspect. Look for the name and symbol of the party of your choice in the top section and mark your X in the blank space provided on the right of the party's symbol. Then you look for the name and symbol of the party of your choice in the bottom section and mark your X in the blank space provided on the right of the symbol of your party or candidate. If the proportional representation aspect is not contested in your local authority area, the top section of the ballot will be blank. If there is no election for the constituency in which you live, the bottom half of the ballot will be blank. For more information, contact the GCOM hotlines on 225-027729, 226-6557 or 223-9650 or visit www.gcom.org.gy. LGE is Monday, June 12.
Looking to bring your dream home to reality? Or simply taking on a home improvement project? Then National Hardware Limited is where you should start. Let us put that touch to your home. Choose from over 1,000 Berger Paint original hues for any surface. We are known for our trusted brands such as Westinghouse, Philips, Sadco, Rubbermaid, Pyrex, Gibson Home and so much more. National Hardware Limited, your do-it-best store. Located in downtown Georgetown and industrial site Rhymeville.